Welcome to eLearnChat, where you always learn something new. And joining me today is someone you always learn something from. It's Lesley Price with www.learnappeal.com. Lesley, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Still recovering from the Learning Technologies Awards last week.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. You've been doing a lot of work, and you have a new commercial out for Learn Appeal. We saw it today or yesterday, so that'll be good too.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get going. Oh, by the way, if you want to see Lesley and I live in living color, in the flesh, we will both be at the Learning Technologies Conference, London, England, February 13 through 14, 2019. Be there, join us, say hi, and learn all about Learn Appeal, because it's a great charity helping people who can't really help themselves. It's a good thing. Let's start. That sounds so much better in stereo. I think we got to go to stereo. Hey, joining us today is an old friend. He's not old. He's just an old friend. He's been around for quite, actually we were talking pre-show, 20 years since he started his company. And it's Josh Cavalier, formerly known as the guy who was formerly Captain Captivate. But he's moved on from there. He's now a bigger superhero. And Josh has been around a long time. He founded Lodestone 20 years ago. It's a long time, and he doesn't look any older now than he did then. So he's actually doing really well for himself. He's been involved in media and video from the get-go. Fine artist. He used to do medical illustrations. I remember seeing some of the stuff you did originally. It was pretty cool. Medical illustrations are not that easy. They're tricky, and if you make a mistake, someone dies. So that's even worse. But he's a good dad. He's a good guy. How have you been, Josh?
Well, I've been great, Rick. It's great to be here, and as you can see, I'm in the holiday spirit.
Yeah, you started early. If it weren't for where we live in a very dry part of California, and if we put a tree up now, it would burn before we hit the.
Right.
It's dry. I mean, we were pretty dry. Of course, it's raining today, but it's been dry like crazy recently. If you've heard about our fires, they were real close to us. We know what dry is, and so we get our Christmas tree literally a couple of days before, and we keep it for about a week and a half, and then that's it, because otherwise it really does get brittle, and we don't want to risk it. But it looks great. So what have you been up to? You know, a lot of people don't know this, but you're probably one of the first, if not the first guy who started doing online learning back when, online video training. You had an online, you had a real class in front of you, and at the same time doing online video, a streaming video, and it was pretty cool. You did that, what, about almost 8-9 years ago, or right around there? Yeah.
So when Macromedia came out with Breeze, right? Remember Adobe Connect? I remember going out to San Francisco and meeting with Peter Rice from Macromedia. At the time, he's now with Adobe, and discussing how we were going to take our classes and use a television production model and start broadcasting classes. So we did a few trials and got a really great response. It wasn't perfect. Because back then there was bandwidth considerations and how do you do a hands-on class live? I mean, we were really trying to find out exactly, is this viable? Can you effectively train people hands-on live online? And after a few iterations, we finally got it down to the point to where not only were we training people in front of us concurrently, but we also had the people online. So it worked out, and that's how we currently do our classes.
It's fun. It's fun. He does a great job training too. I've seen some of his training and videos. He does a really good job, and it's tough to get your online group in sync with your live group. That takes a certain skill set too. Not that easy.
Right.
But it was fun. I remember you were getting involved in all the video back then and stuff, and you go back a long time with video. You like working with video.
Right. Yeah, well, I started out on the small screen, the very, very small which was multimedia. So I didn't start out with broadcast experience. Started with multimedia in the mid-90s and doing 1x CD-ROMs with 120 by 160 video.
Wow.
And, went up from there. And so it was a very different time. I mean, you're basically trying to incorporate video, a very small size on a very small screen, and honestly, it wasn't that effective. And it took many iterations, many generations of technology shifting and changing to actually get it to a point where it became viable. And I think this medium that we're currently broadcasting in is finally to the point where it's engaging enough and people can pay attention, and it's in real time, that it's this is the real deal.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's come a long way. I remember.
Oh yeah.
And Lesley, she's been involved pretty much from the beginning as well.
I think that Rick's right. It is live online learning is certainly a different skill set. And I've got a couple of friends who've been involved. A girl called Jo Cook. I don't know if you've come across Jo. She's on Twitter as Lightbulb Jo. And she is a very good friend of mine. And one of her specialties is live online learning. And the other person is Colin Steve, who actually wrote the certificate, the Certified Online Learning Facilitation course, which the Learning and Performance Institute ran. And one of the things that Colin always said was why he wrote that certified program was because it is a different skill set. You can't just assume because somebody can stand in front of a class and deliver that they can actually do it live online. Not just online, but live online.
That's right. I think you have to have a keen awareness of what the user is going through during that exchange. And for a lot of instructors who are new to the platform, they have a challenge understanding the technology and what happens when technology fails, and how to quickly adapt the class or identify when things go wrong and address it as quickly as possible, not to detract away from the class itself. I mean, it's a dance, and there are times where it's just going to fail, and you have to do it as gracefully as possible. But when it works, it's absolutely amazing. And those times when you have a class and you hit it out of the park, and everybody's technology is working, and they're able to go through the hands-on exercises in tandem. Everybody's working together, and it's special. I mean, you really get to feel that the medium itself is viable, and it's only going to get better from here.
We just actually got a viewer comment. We have Paul Wilson who says, "Hey, I know that guy. Hi, Josh."
Hey, Paul. I think Paul has officially taken over the reins of Captain Captivate. I'm not going to sell him the name, though. But if you want to go to YouTube and check out some amazing Captivate videos, please search Paul Wilson for Captivate videos. Spectacular content. He does a fantastic job. The captain approves.
That's great. Welcome to the show, Paul. And let's see. So, what do you see the role of? Well, actually, let's take it a step back. You've been involved in e-learning a lot. We've all been involved in e-learning pretty much from the inception days. Where do you think e-learning is going? Do you think it's going to be replaced by video, by streaming video, by online stuff? You think it'll still be around? It's definitely changing, but I don't know if you're feeling this, but I see a lot of people that are colder to it now. They're not as motivated as they used to be with developing anything that's really more interesting. Quick and dirty, boom, boom, but not as much interesting. What do you see?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, you have so many different things that are going on. The I mean, when I first started, there was a huge amount of money set aside to properly create the media.
Yep.
And obviously through the kind of rapid e-learning development tools and influence by management to actually have people who are not media producers produce media, you get mediocre output, and budgets have dropped, and there are some diamonds still out there. You still see a lot of good content, but not as much as there used to be. But I have hope. I mean, I don't, I'm not completely, worried that this is all gonna be a waste. I see a lot of new tools coming on in the marketplace to help people produce video. We can talk about artificial intelligence and how it's allowing folks to actually create visually appealing content quickly based upon proven visual rules. So I mean, there are opportunities for folks who are not traditionally media producers to produce great content. I think you're starting to see those tools come out within the last couple of years. A good example would be Adobe
I was a judge. I can talk about this now because the awards are over.
Oh, sure.
But I was a judge in the Learning Technologies Awards on the category simulation and virtual environments. And some of the things that are now being done in that area are absolutely fascinating, really fascinating. Taking compliance and health and safety to interesting places rather than just a tick box or a check box, actually making people live it and some of them are using the 3D goggles, but other people are doing things using like Nintendos and all sorts of things. It was quite amazing what is being done.
Yeah.
And really so interesting, and particularly in vocational education, there's becoming a huge interest. So, how can you teach young plumbers? How can you teach young electricians what to do before they get on site, so that when they do get on site, they're able to learn quicker?
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up because that's been talked about for so many years, but the technology hadn't caught up yet. And we didn't have the bandwidth, and now we have a lot of that. And I think everybody's sort of going, what do we do? We still don't have the budgets. I think the budgets have really shrunken a lot to do really expansive training. We see that in government. Government has the money to pay for those kind of projects often, but private industry doesn't want to spend that much, usually. We've had a couple where we've had to give some budgets for, like, plumbing. In fact, one was a large plumbing organization, and when they got the numbers, they just kind of went, but they wanted 300 hours of video. That's a lot of video to shoot and edit and process. And it would have been interesting, but they I'm sorry?
It wasn't done. These weren't just simple videos.
Yeah.
A lot of them was actually done with 3D graphics simulation.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
And it was absolutely, some of it was just what they were doing with wind turbines, for example, was phenomenal. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
When the budgets are there, you see amazing stuff. I was at DevLearn, and one of the best at Demo Fest, one of the best examples I saw was a bar simulator where you have to go up against other students. You got a budget, and they had a whole gaming engine, an online gaming engine running in the background that was keeping track of all the variables, like if you bought certain types of liquor or how you set up the bar. And it was all, I mean, it was impressive. to have this gaming engine running in the background in real time. So people would be online trying to go through the simulation, and it's real world, all happening with real time responses in the environment. And but obviously it costs some bucks to get that going. I mean, that's just something you can't throw together in Storyline or Captivate or any of these other tools. It's a custom gaming engine in the background, and that takes time and money to put that together. But the results are amazing.
You know, just interesting you bring that up. We once did some projects with USDA, and this is it was really their air safety and air management. It's the forestry group, and they do a lot of safety and cattle organizing and stuff in the air. And they were looking for a simulator at that time. So we were quoting on putting together kind of a pseudo simulator, and they found a $350,000 real simulator that could actually simulate with a person in there. And they went with that. Now, mind you, every scenario they built took like $100,000, but it was so real. And I go, we can't compete with that, not in what we were doing, because we didn't have access to those simulators. Right. But it was really an eye-opening experience to realize that, yes, you can do stuff like that. With the budgets, like you said, you can do wonders. And there are tools out there to enable that kind of training, but it's not for everybody. The average corporation, which changes very quickly in the terms of what they produce and how they go and time to market and this and that, they need fast. And those simulators take a long time to program and to get up and running and everything else. So that's kind of a different world. And if you can get into that world, it's cool. You're set. You can do a lot of work and have a lot of fun. But it's harder to get into that kind of world in the standard business environment. It's a little bit different.
We've got another comment from Paul.
Yeah.
He says, my clients are always surprised when I provide an honest quote how much time and how much cost is involved in good quality e-learning.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is.
I mean, I don't pull any punches when it comes to quotes.
No.
I mean, it is what it is. You know, if you want it done properly, here are the resources that are required to get the job done in the time allotted at the level that you need for effective training.
Yeah, and if you pull the quote back, and then you're cutting back somewhere, and then you're rushing to make sure you can do everything within cost, it's going to suffer.
Right.
It'll suffer. On the other hand,
oh yeah,
if they're that cheap but want that much, it's probably not the kind of client you want, because their expectations can never be met. So you run into that situation as well. You know, part of it's meeting expectations, setting expectations. That's one of the toughest parts of this industry.
Right.
Letting people know what they're going to get and how effective that'll be or not. And there's a lot of organizations, especially some of the very large organizations, which will quote enormous amounts of money and give you the same thing that independents can give you. And you just go, wow, and they actually paid for that. And you know, that happens. Big companies buy from big companies many times, not because they're getting better work. Usually they're not. They're getting that because they feel, quote unquote, safe, and they get screwed all the time. But that's different. It's just sort of an interesting world when it comes to that. And I experienced that in the IT world a lot. You know, I was in IT for 25 years, and it was a different world. Bigger budgets, bigger everything, but you had to deal with just as unscrupulous vendors and everything else. And companies were more than willing to pay quadruple to feel happy. And then when they got screwed, they went, wait a minute, I'm not that happy anymore. Yes, but you enjoyed the ride as you went. So it's interesting. So where do you think e-learning's going right now?
Well, you know, there's a lot of distractions out there with various forms of new technology. People, they get enamored with things like VR and AR. I mean, there's huge potential in those areas. I mean, obviously, video is still going to be rising up just because it's so approachable. From a cost standpoint, it continues to drop as far as the cost of production. Right. The tools, as I was going to mention Adobe Rush as a new tool out there in the marketplace that allows for the expediting content creation for just the common person, not the media person, to come in and produce a good looking content.
Now, Rush is sort of like an
So-
iMovie for Premiere, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But it's going to be both mobile and desktop. So if you're producing content on the mobile, it'll immediately go to the desktop and vice versa.
Oh,
so you can,
okay.
You can work on both platforms. Yeah. But it's interesting. With all the advances in regards to these different mediums, I'm still a believer that if a well-designed job aid gets it done, then let's just go with that. I mean, we've been talking about all these advanced forms of media, and it's fun to do that type of work. But I'm a purist when it comes to the best medium or the best solution possible for all the situations that you're up against. Whether it's on a shop floor where there's a lot of noise, or whatever the case may be. So I'm not going to, just because I do a lot of video, or I might be interested in augmented reality, I'm not going to push those types of solutions onto my clients. I'm going to be, if we have to go ahead and do a job aid, or we have to do a workbook, then so be it. That's what we have to produce.
That's true. And you know what? It's funny. That's coming down to a training solution. And it's so funny you say that. It's refreshing because most people don't want to provide that training solution. They want to provide the big solution because you make more money. But the reality is, I call it penny wise, pound foolish. A lot of times people will give up an enormous client because they don't want to do anything small. Start small. That client could turn into a huge client later. And be honest, like Paul said in his comment, if you're not doing honest quotes and you're not doing honest work, then people won't use you. You might get in the door, but you won't stay in the door. And you can get kicked out. No. You can go in one way and leave the other way very quickly. So we've had one client now for 15 years, going on 16. One client, and they're huge. And in terms of one client that we have, they've been with us the longest. And we just kind of go, wow, it's just amazing. But they're happy with the work, and they're happy with I think more than anything else, the serviceability. I think it comes down to being serviceable to the clients and having their best interests at heart, not yours. Because yours will be satisfied anyway if theirs are. But thinking about them first. And when times are tight, you kind of wonder, well, gee, is it going to be me or them? And it's got to be them. It's got to be them that get the benefit of everything. And you'll get yours. And that's what a lot of people get short-sighted on in the services industry of, I'm thinking about me first and not them. That's not going to go far. It never goes far.
Right.
And so that's just one of the things you always have to worry about with services. And it's an interesting industry because a lot of people, I know you probably run into this, a lot of people we see work you've done. Yeah, but we can't show you usually our best work. Why? We've got more NDAs than you can imagine. And you can't show some of the best stuff you've done, or you have to be very careful what you show. And that's something that in the media world is tough. If you make a movie that everybody can see, people go, oh, wow, now I know what you do. With e-learning, it's a little tricky because you can't always show what you do, because some of the stuff could be for government. It could be considered confidential. You could be doing stuff for financial institutions. They don't want stuff like that out. So that's the typical, okay, can't show that, can't show that, can't show this, but we can show this. It's just that you can't show everything. It's an interesting world. How you started? Go ahead.
No, I was going to say one of the things that makes Lodestone unique as a vendor is that we do a lot of co-development work. We are an empowerment company. So we'll actually go into training departments and cross-train them on how to produce the content themselves.
Right.
So if they're trying to spin up a training department and they need to figure out who they need from a resources standpoint, the tools that they need, systems that they need, they need someone to actually produce the first bits of content, we'll actually go ahead and do that. Or if they just want us to produce all of the work, we'll do that also. Yeah. So, it really do want to empower the client to produce the best training content possible for their employees. It's any way that we can do that for them.
Well, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but what you just said is actually a classic good services company. You're not going in with a position of fear. You're going in with a position of power. You have the power to teach them. You have the power to make them better.
Right.
And yeah, they may not use you as much in the future, or they may use you 10 times more because they trust you.
Yeah.
And that's the key. That is being successful in the services business. So you just quoted the correct way to do services, because you're not afraid to go in and maybe lose a little bit of that chunk of the pie, because in the long run, you're going to be better off for it. You're going to have a happy customer. You're going to have people that can refer you to other people. And at the end of the day, you do a good job. That's really the key to being good in services. And there's no other people go, what's the secret of good services? Well, if you pay me $1,000, I'll show you. No, I mean, the secret is just do good work. Be proud of the work you do. Do good work for them, and you know what? The reward will be there. And it's simple. It's so simple, nobody sees it.
Yep. Yeah, it's a very selfless place to be, and between that and maintaining your integrity throughout the whole entire process. I mean, if you have that, it's amazing how if you stay in the business long enough, people will, as they jump from company to company, will still come back and continue to use you. And I think that's how I get into a lot of new places, is just people I've worked prior, they have moved on, and they give me a call and say, guess where I'm at now? Can we start working together?
Yep.
Or again.
And I remember, I'll tell, this won't, I hope this doesn't embarrass Josh, but, one of the things when I first met Josh, or actually several years afterwards, we were at one of the DevLearns, and you had to leave. You left real quickly, and I was going, aren't you going to hang out a little bit? No, I got to go. It's Halloween, and my son's waiting for me. And I went, but you know what? That, to me, that was just, I respected you 1,000,000% more for that, because you put, it's that put family first thing, and you do. And you know what? I've heard from some of your clients and stuff in the past that shows, because we recommend you to people all the time, and they go, yeah, he really puts out for us. He does a good job, and he cares about us. And you know what? You do it with your family. Those are good things. I just, that's the kind of stuff that always told us Josh is a good person. We trust Josh. It's those little things that, and they're not little, they're big things, but it may be small at the moment, but when you think about it, good stuff. It's very good stuff, because it shows it's not just about you, it's about your family, your other things, and that's care. So kudos to you, my friend.
Right.
To me, that's good stuff.
Now he doesn't want to hang out with his old man during Halloween.
That
means I can stay in Vegas longer.
That is so funny. Yeah, they become teenagers. Alien breed. Gotta love it.
Exactly.
Oh, that's funny. Well, we are at the end of our time. Lesley, do you have any ending comments or questions?
No. I've just been listening.
Yeah, it's rare. She likes to talk. She must be tired. They've been killing her at these awards.
Wow.
But she'll talk. She always talks. She's good. Well, Josh, it's been a pleasure seeing you again. We got to get you back on sooner. It's been way too long. So we'll be having you on beginning of the next year again if you have time. We'd love to have you on again and tell us what you're up to.
I've always got time for you.
Thanks, appreciate it. And always glad to see what you're doing, because we always watch you too. You're kind of like the parakeet in the cave. He's not dying. He's always coming up with new little tricks, and he comes out with a toy, and that's fun because you like doing that. It's fun seeing what you're doing. Hey, look, I just started my first Captivate. You were one of the first to do a Captivate phone application. I remember that you were using PhoneGap, and we were right. You were right after me on a talk we did at Learning Solutions. And I sat and watched your presentation. It was a good presentation, and everything was going well. And all of a sudden, Captivate crapped out on something. You were like, "Oh no!" But you worked around it, and you got the problem going, and got around the problem. But that was cool. That was one of the first. I think you were literally one of the first to do that in public and get it to work. And people were going, "Wow, how'd you do that?" It was interesting. And that wasn't that long. It was 6 years ago, maybe. I don't know.
We just got another comment from Paul.
Okay, Paul.
He says, "Agreed. Josh has been a pleasure to meet and get to know over the last few years."
That's good. Go, Josh.
Thanks,
anyway,
Paul.
Josh, we appreciate you being on. We'll see you soon. Have a wonderful Christmas, and happy, healthy, and prosperous New Year. We're getting there. And thanks.
Awesome.
And Lesley, we'll see you next week.
You're wishing your life away. Because in Scotland, what you say is, the good news when it comes,
Oh, you cut out a bit.
What you say in Scotland is, and a good new year when it comes.
A Hootin' New Year. I think that's where a lot of Americanisms
Awesome.
come from. I think Americans are more Scottish than British.
Oh yeah, my American cousins, they're worse than the Scots.
Yeah, it's fun. Anyway,
Awesome.
Yeah.
for all you folks watching the chat room or live or watching this later on, please subscribe. Give us your feedback. We'll put notes below so you can get a hold of Josh and work with him. And we'll see you next week on eLearnChat. Have a good one, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.